Good evening, everyone. Pull up a chair, or don't. Stay wherever you are. The energy we're tracking doesn't care about your posture, it cares about your pulse, about the way your breath changed when you read that title, about the split second where something in your chest said finally. That split second is what we're here for, not predictions. Not promises, a map of where you are standing right now, even if you didn't know you were standing anywhere in particular. Something is rustling at the edges of your life, a new wind, not the one that blows through old ruins, kicking up dust you thought you'd swept away. A different wind, fresher, carrying scents you don't recognize, but your body remembers somehow. A specific kind of electricity that only shows up when you've stopped begging the universe to prove itself to you. You've been in that place, haven't you? The place where the begging stopped, where the waiting stopped being active and became something else, something quieter, a kind of alert rest. You stopped checking the door, and that's exactly when the door started to move. There is someone new threading through the margins of your awareness. Not a face yet, maybe. A shape, a feeling. A name you haven't heard but that your tongue wants to practice. This is not the kind of arrival that announces itself with trumpets. It's the kind that slips in through the side door when you're busy living your life. A conversation that starts because you answered a message you normally would have ignored. A coincidence that keeps happening until it stops being a coincidence. A moment where you look up and someone is looking at you, and the looking is different. It's not hungry. It's not cautious. It's just seeing. And that seeing undoes something you didn't know was knotted. This new presence carries a signature you'll recognize by its absence of effort, no performance, no calculation, no wondering what they mean or where it's going. Just a simple, unnerving ease. The kind of ease that comes from two people who aren't trying to convince each other of anything. You've been convincing for so long, convincing the last one to stay, convincing yourself you were fine when you weren't, convincing the world that you could handle the weight you were carrying. This new person doesn't need convincing. They showed up already convinced. Convinced that you're interesting, that you're worth the attention, that the time spent in your orbit is time well spent. That simplicity is going to feel like a drug after the complexity you've been living in. Now let's pivot to the rear view, because the past is not done with its function in this story. It's not returning to center stage, but it's present, not as a ghost, as a mirror, someone you shared air with, someone who held you and then unheld you, someone who made a decision that left a scar shaped like your name, is having a different experience of their own history. The story they told themselves about why they left, the justifications they built, the image they crafted of a future that didn't include you. That story is cracking. Not because you did anything, because reality has a way of wearing down illusions. And what's left underneath the worn away story is a simple, uncomfortable fact. You were not just someone they passed through. You were a peak, a high point, a before and after moment they didn't recognize until they were on the other side of it. This recognition is not a call to action. It's not a plea for your return. It's a settling of accounts inside their own chest, a reckoning. They are sitting with the knowledge that what they had with you was not replaceable, that the way you showed up, the steadiness you brought, the specific flavor of your attention was not something they could find elsewhere. And that knowledge, once it lands, does not leave. It becomes part of the furniture of their interior life. A piece of furniture they have to walk around every day. Heavy, solid, unmovable. Here's where your power lives, in this configuration. You are not waiting for that recognition. You're not hungry for it. You're not checking your phone to see if it's finally turned into an apology. That chapter is not being rewritten. It's being closed. You are moving on, not with the clenched jaw of someone pretending to be fine, with the loose-limbed walk of someone who has actually, finally let go. This is not an act, it's a state you arrived at through the slow, unglamorous work of mornings that hurt and nights that stretched too long. A state you earned the hard way, and now from that state, you're seeing something new take shape. The moving on is not a rejection of what was. It's a completion, like a song that played all the way through. You don't rewind it because you loved the chorus. You let it finish. You let the silence after the last note be the silence. And in that silence, a new song is already being written. Not about the past, about what comes next. About the person you are when you're not bracing for impact. About the version of you that doesn't need to be proven right or vindicated or validated by anyone else's regret. That version is the one walking into this new chapter. That version is the one someone new is about to meet. Here's what's important about this new connection. It doesn't exist to heal you. It doesn't exist to prove that you were always lovable. It exists because two people who have done enough of their own work are about to cross paths at the right angle. Not to complete each other, to recognize each other. The recognition is the thing, the quiet mutual understanding that you don't have to explain yourself to this person, that they get it, that they see you, and what they see doesn't need to be fixed or managed or negotiated. This is rare. This is the kind of thing people spend years chasing and end up settling for imitations. You didn't chase it. You stopped chasing. You turned your attention inward. And in that turning, you became the kind of person who can recognize this when it appears. Not because you were looking, because you were ready. The past, meanwhile, is doing its own work. The person who lost you is not your concern. Their regret is not your business. But it's worth noting, because it's part of the landscape, that their regret is not small. It's not the fleeting nostalgia of a lonely Tuesday. It's the deep, structural kind. The kind that changes how they see themselves, the kind that makes them question every decision that led to the one where they let you go. This is not a victory for you to savor. It's simply a fact about the arc of consequences. You cannot walk away from something real without eventually feeling the shape of that absence. And they are feeling it in ways that surprise them, in ways that don't go away. You, on the other hand, are not feeling the absence. You're feeling the presence of your own life, of the space you've cleared, of the new person whose orbit is beginning to intersect with yours. This is not a competition, it's a completion. The arc of your story is bending towards something that actually fits, not something you have to shrink for, not something you have to perform for. Something that asks you to be exactly who you are in all your complexity, and finds that complexity not a burden but a gift. When this new person arrives fully into your experience, you'll know them by their steadiness. They don't need to convince you of their value. They don't need to prove they're different from the last one. They simply show up, present, unhurried, unimpressed by their own presence. And in that showing up, they offer you a mirror that shows you the version of yourself that doesn't need to be different. That is enough. That has always been enough, but you needed someone to see it for you to believe it. That's not weakness. That's how recognition works. We see ourselves in the eyes of another. And when those eyes are clear, when they're not trying to get something from us, we see something we couldn't see alone. This is the new love that comes out of nowhere. Not because it's random, because you stopped placing conditions on when you were allowed to receive it. You stopped saying, when I'm thinner, or when I've healed more, or when I've proven myself. You just lived. You kept showing up to your own life. You kept putting one foot in front of the other. You kept breathing through the days that tasted like nothing. And somewhere in that ordinary persistence, you became someone who could be found. Not because you were hiding, because you were waiting. Not waiting for them, waiting for yourself, for the moment when you would finally, fully choose your own life. That moment has arrived. So when the past sees you now, what do they see? Someone they didn't have the capacity to hold. Someone who was never the problem. Someone who has, in their absence, become more fully themselves. That's the sharp edge of regret. Not that you left, that you grew, that you became, without them, exactly who they always suspected you could be. And they didn't get to witness it. They don't get to claim any of it. They are a footnote in a story where you are the main character, a story they opted out of, a story that kept writing itself without them. You are moving on, not in the way people say when they're still secretly hoping, in the way that happens when a door closes and you don't check to see if it's locked. You just walk down the hall, into the next room, into a space you didn't know existed until you stopped looking back. That space is where the new is waiting, not to rescue you, to join you, to stand beside you as you continue becoming, not as a reward for your suffering, as a consequence of your wholeness. The wholeness you cultivated in the quiet, the wholeness that doesn't need anyone to complete it, but is open to being companioned. That's the kind of wholeness that attracts the kind of love that doesn't require performance. That's the kind of wholeness that recognizes the same in another. So here you are, at the hinge, one door closing behind you, not with a slam, but with the soft, final click of something that is simply done. Another door, not yet visible, but already breathing, air moving through it. A draft you feel on your skin, even though you can't see the opening. That's enough. The not seeing is part of it. You don't need to see the whole path. You just need to feel the ground under your feet and the wind on your face. The rest unfolds, not because you will it, because you allow it. Because you've done the hard work of becoming someone who can be found. And now, without your even asking, the finding is beginning. I don't sell futures, I build architects. No predictions, just the raw truth for the tough ones. Stay magic, stay in the now.